Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I must say I've managed to make a video in only a month since the last upload, and for me that's a pretty big deal, so I hope to get a few well dones for that. Praise me, I know it's amazing. But now we need to discuss something that's been happening in the Guilty Gear community. You see, a new character has been released as DLC, and you may know her. It's Bridget. Now this is a character that's been around for years, but they've been missing in quite a few installments, so seeing them back in Guilty Gear Strive was quite the revelation, and I know a lot of people are excited because they are a fan favourite character. But there's a little bit of a problem. You see, while she may play great, she's a character I love, by the way, because she uses yo-yos as a means of fighting, which is a really cool and unique method. If you didn't know, my two favourite characters are Bridget and May, so I have a bit of a connection here with them. But yes, for Bridget, something's changed in terms of her story. You see, they have pretty much made it canonical that this character is now trans, or at least they are in the bad ending. It's kind of funny, but we'll discuss that as we go. But yes, this character has now been made trans. Now that may not seem like a big issue, but it's quite confusing when you know the story of Bridget. Bridget is actually a twin, and in her home country, her little village in England, they had a little superstition which meant that if two twins were born of the same gender, then it was a curse, and one of them either had to be maybe executed or exiled from said country. But luckily for her, her parents were good and decided instead to make Bridget, who by the way was actually a boy, so yes, these two twins were boys, to dress up like a girl, and in return they gave him, I am now going to be saying him, a great education. But it's quite weird when you think about it, because in my head at least, maybe you have to start asking some trans people what they think, but in my personal opinion, he was forced to be a woman. Throughout his whole life, he was forced to be a woman. And one of the things you're going to learn about his story is that he went on to be a bounty hunter, not only to prove that he's not a curse and can make a living and can do all this, but also to prove his masculinity. And that in of itself is quite an interesting thing to tackle within a fighting game. But beyond that, the fact that he is now trans feels so wrong to the character, because no matter what I see of this, it will always feel like he was forced into that position. I don't believe he would have ever considered being a woman had it not been forced upon him, had he had not been Bridget, had he had not been dressed for his whole life saying that he was a girl. And with this new game, it just feels like, yeah, they really did come here and force this onto someone who didn't need it. But what's funny about it, as I was saying before, is that this only happens in the bad ending. You see, in the good ending, Bridget actually believes that they have to learn to love themselves and to love themselves as a man, which is great because not only does it continue on from what they were learning in the previous games because they were trying to gain their masculinity and become a more full person, but it just makes sense they would go that route. Them then accepting they were a girl kind of spits in the face of what I believe the story was. If only because, again, it just feels so forced. You were told you're a girl, you are now a girl, this is how you will live your life. And that's just not what Bridget was about. It definitely feels forced. And as a lot of people I've been reading online, anyway, what a lot of people have been saying, and I think I've come to the conclusion that it just isn't the way to do it. I think a lot of people, when it comes to sexuality and gender, they want new characters. If you're going to make a character trans, if you're going to make a character gay, etc, we expect these characters to be new and innovative. The reason that a lot of these other characters don't work, in my opinion anyway, is because a lot of the time they piggyback off exceptional IPs that already exist, and that just kind of ruins it for a lot of people, because why do we need these older characters to be piggybacked off of to make them work, to make them successful? These characters should be able to stand on their own and be successful by themselves. It kind of sucks, like if you've seen the new Spider-Man who's come out as gay, like, okay, well that's interesting I guess, but you know what would have made it better? If it was just a gay superhero, and it didn't even have to be a part of the identity, you could just reveal it at some point. But just to make a Spider-Man, just to say, hey, this Spider-Man is gay, It just doesn't sit right with me. In a universe somewhere with all the multiverses and different interpretations, there is a universe where there would be a gay Spider-Man. That's true. But it's just the fact it feels so tacked on, man. You did not need to do it like that. And also it just feels very stereotypical, like just the way this man stands and dresses. And it kind of links back here, you know. There was literally no reason to do this. I think femboys and, you know, men who dress like women, cross-dressing, etc., they have their own place. They do not need to be associated with being trans. They do not need to be associated with being gay. They can literally be a man and just dress like a girl, or even just sound like a girl, because some people just do not get their vocal cords to that point where they end up having a deep masculine voice. Some of us just have naturally high voices, and that doesn't change. All these things can correlate at the same time without someone needing to be gay, without someone needing to be trans. And that representation will always feel forced no matter what you do. And I think a lot of trans people can agree at least on that part. I'm not saying there shouldn't be trans characters. I'm not saying there shouldn't be gay characters. I'm just saying it would be a lot better if these characters were unique. For me as a black man now, I'm going to go into this. If a white, an Asian, a Southeast Asian, if these characters were randomly changed within an installment to be black, I would raise an eyebrow. I'd be like, what the hell is this? Why change the skin color of a random character that we've grown to know when you could make a new character that's more loved than the old ones that you've just decided to change their skin color and call it a day? It's lazy, it doesn't help. It's just not what I want from these type of games. Now, at the end of the day, it's just a fighting game. You don't even have to look into the story of it. You can just ignore that and just play the game online, play competitive like most people are going to do. But I still think you need to have at least some sort of discussion on things like this, because without it, they're just going to keep pushing it. And it's going to ruin a lot of characters just for the sheer fact that they want to push this agenda without having any nuance involved in just making your own character. Again, it can't be that difficult. But basically that's it, and I would more like to hear what you guys have to say about it, because it's not really my place to talk at the end of the day. As much as I like to talk, it would be great to hear other people and what they think on this, because I'm just a Guilty Gear fan, that's all. I have no other place or say in this conversation other than to just give my opinion and run away when people start getting annoyed. But that's going to do it for this video. I'd like to thank you all for listening, and if you can, please like and subscribe and share the video around. It always helps. I'm trying to get into this YouTube thing properly. Anyway, you guys have a good day, and I will see you next time.